Good morning, CocoaHeads. Welcome to CocoaHeads 194. Thank you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Melbourne CocoaHeads acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Cool. Tonight we have Chris Hocking. He's going to just blow you away today. The title of the talk is Pretending to be a Coder, version 3. Version 1 and 2 were fantastic, so really looking forward to version 3. The world has changed since we last saw Chris. Codex, Claude, and Burnout. Cool. There's a code of conduct here at CocoaHeads. We want people to feel safe and included. If you think that's not happening or see that not happening, let myself or Bok know or Jane know, and we'll try to correct it. There's also an anonymous form on melbournecocoaheads.com/code of conduct, so you can submit something there. Questions? Okay, during the presentation, because there's online people watching as well, we normally do questions at the end of the presentation. So unless the speaker specifically asks for questions, you go for it. All right, we're going to go for it. So today, just go for it. But if you're online, jump on the Melbourne Meetup Slack channel and ask your questions there, and then we'll relay them to Chris during the presentation. Thank you to our sponsors, Mantle Group. Round of applause. And also REA Group as well. Keep it going. All right. We couldn't do it without the sponsors, so thanks heaps. You know, it means a lot. Awesome. Other events happening this month. Coding Night. We do that with GDG Melbourne and Flutter Melbourne and other something Melbourne. It's here at Mantle again. It's next Wednesday. It's an alcohol-free event, so everyone's welcome. Just bring your laptop, do some projects. There's people there to help you learn. Cool, great. Social Night, April 28th. That's the last Tuesday of the month at the Brick Lane Brewing. Yep. Tufts, he's got me covered. Yep, awesome. All right, other groups that we sort of support and support us, there's Sydney CocoaHeads, thank you, and GDG Melbourne, and there's also a QR code here which gives you access to all the CocoaHeads around New Zealand and Australia. Jump on that QR code. Okay, how to find us specifically. Go to melbournecocoaheads.com. There's a website there. If you jump on Slack, that's probably the best place to get in touch with us. At least that's the best place that I'm on. Like, don't message us on Meetup, or at least don't message me on Meetup, because it I check it every 3 months, and then I'm like, I've missed someone messaging me. So sorry for everyone that messaged me on Meetup. Anyway, Mastodon, get on it. I'm going to create an account in the next couple of weeks. It'll be fun. Okay. Some channels on Slack. Melbourne Meetup, that's the one for tonight. Volunteers, get up there, give it a go. You know, appreciate the support. Jump on jobs, #jobs, if you're looking for work or looking for people to work. You know, there's plenty of people out there right now just looking for that the next thing. If you want to do a presentation or you've got an idea for a presentation that you want to see, jump on #speakers. Just ideas are great. You know, it could inspire someone to jump up here and do a talk. You know, everything's interesting. All right, now I'm going to throw it over to Chris for his speech. Everyone give him a round of applause. His presentation. We're gonna go for it. All right, great. I'm unplugging. Can I unplug? I'm still up there. Oh. Yeah.
Hey everyone in the room, hey everyone on the weird camera in front of me. My name's Chris Hocking, I'm a filmmaker in Melbourne. I've done 2 of these talks before. This is version 3 of me pretending to be a coder. So yeah, I'm a filmmaker really, but over the last however many years I've been doing a lot of coding. I am the co-founder of a company called Late Night. We're based in Collingwood. We're a film and TV production studio. We do lots of weird and wonderful things. So just quickly, to give you some context, here's a little show reel of the kind of stuff we do.
I'm not sure it's going to read how small his feet are. No, we'll shrink them in post.
Men don't make friends in their 30s. Chili, he should know the rules.
So yeah, as you can see, we do a lot of weird and wonderful things. We've built bars underwater, we've done battles at Cryo Castle, we've done all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. A lot of the stuff we do, obviously do a lot of visual effects and 2D animation as well. So yeah, my role at the company is I co-founder with my business partner Nick. He sort of handles all the creative stuff. He's the storyteller, and I'm the technical, businessy, nerd, geek person that does everything else. So yeah, back in February 2023, I did my first CocoaHeads talk, which was, at the time, I had an open source app called Command Post, and I just got into, I think the first talk I had 2 apps on the Mac App Store. And I think at the time I was really like enthusiastic and stuff. I was like, I'm going to do an app a month. And this was before LLMs and all that kind of stuff. 9 months later, I came back and did another talk and talked about the apps I've done since then. And I don't know what my next slide is because I can't preview, but today is pretending to be a coder version 3 and talking about the stuff that's changed in the last couple of years, because I can't believe it's been years since I've been here. I don't know how quickly that sort of happened. So we can see here back in 2023, this is my GitHub account. You can say I was pretty active. I was doing stuff all the time. And then 2024, pretty active as well, like doing lots of stuff. Then 2025, you can see there's a lot more white in there because I was literally just really burnt out from doing all this stuff in the world and everything like that. And then 2026, I've sort of, you can see we're obviously in April, but there's a lot less white sort of in there. So February 2025, basically I just completely burnt myself out, like juggling 2 small kids, a business in the arts industry, and the main thing that really burnt me out was the software stuff, because originally I started doing it because I loved problem solving, and like Command Post it's written in Lua, it's really quick and easy to do things, and it was sort of like my YouTube channel, for lack of a better description, because people would ask me stuff on social media and then I'd do it and I'd be so excited because I made people happy and that sort of thing. But it all just got too much. This also happened in 2025. And a tree fell on our house. And it wasn't like, so our house is on the left and my neighbour's house is on the right, and my poor neighbours haven't even started getting it fixed yet. But even though it only smashed a small portion of our roof, it turned our life into chaos because we've only got a small 2-bedroom house with 2 kids. So between all this stuff happening, and the world was sort of changing as well, especially in the software world, we started getting LLMs and Claude and Codex, and everything was just chaos. So anyway, I was completely sort of burnt out. So the first thing I made was Command Post, and this screenshot was taken a while ago, probably in January, and it already had like 277,000 downloads across all the various versions. And this was sort of my first proper project. It's powered by another open source program called Hammerspoon. And the big change since the last time I did a talk was in January this year, I decided that I couldn't just keep doing this for free, but I didn't want to charge for it. I tried every sort of avenue to get on the Mac App Store, but it uses private APIs, it uses the accessibility API. There's no way. I tried every possible avenue to get onto the Mac App Store, and every time Apple's like, rejected. So what I decided to do was something a bit unique, I think, in that to use Command Post, it's free and open source, so it's on GitHub, you can download and do what you want with it. But if you want to download the binary and use it, you have to own one of my paid apps on the Mac App Store. So it's sort of like blocked by my paid apps. And the paid apps, like the cheapest one I think is like US $10, so it's not like I'm forcing people to pay a lot of money to use it. And if they really don't want to pay, they can always work out how to use the Xcode and build it themselves. But for the sake of $10, I mean, I have trouble building Command Posts on a regular basis. So for these people, it's just easier to pay the $10 than to work out how the hell to build this thing. So these were my first 2 apps I talked about in the first time I did a talk. So I've got Brawl Toolbox, which has now nearly had 4,000 purchases, and Gyroflow Toolbox, which is based on another open source program called Gyroflow, which has had 3.1 thousand purchases. Brawl Toolbox, a couple of years ago, maybe around the time that I did one of the other talks, Apple came out with their Media Extensions API. And when they came out with that, I thought that Brawl Toolbox was going to die a horrible death because Media Extensions, for those that don't know, on macOS it allows you, it's sort of like the old QuickTime codecs. It allows you to write a video codec that the whole operating system can do. So you can write a codec that will work across every app that supports AV Foundations, which is every Mac app. And Brawl Toolbox is basically a hack to get Blackmagic RAW files into Apple's Final Cut Pro. It only works in Final Cut Pro. It's very niche, but it's somewhat popular. But when Media Extensions came out, I just figured Apple or Blackmagic would come out with it quickly and release it and make my tool redundant, because once they do that, everyone will have access to Brawl natively across all of macOS through AV Foundations and Media Extensions. But as of today, it still hasn't happened. We know, I think last year at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit at Cupertino, Apple did announce that Blackmagic and Apple are going to release a Media Extension, but like almost a year later, it still hasn't happened. And because Media Extension is just an Apple framework, you can look at the documentation on the Apple developer site. I could do it myself if I could work out how to frickin' do it. And I paid people, really smart people that are really good at this stuff, to try solve this problem as well. And so far, none of us have really worked out how to work this out. So maybe Blackmagic's having the same issue that we're having, is that the API is just not necessarily fit for purpose for what we want to do with Blackmagic RAW. But because this now has a limited lifespan, and this is really the main app that generates any income, because this I think is US $80, so it's not a cheap app. I don't want to kill it because this was like the first ever Objective-C app I've ever built, first app I've ever put on the Mac App Store, first time I paid someone to make an expensive icon. I want to keep it going, so my plan is to sort of go even more niche and try to use it to allow you to do Blackmagic Immersive in Final Cut Pro, which you can currently only do in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So my plan is to sort of, it already plays immersive files, but the workflow of how you get immersive files, and I don't own a Vision Pro and I don't really understand immersive or stereo in that world, but the plan is to work out how to solve that pipeline so that you can edit in Final Cut Pro and play it in real time to your Vision Pro. So that's sort of my plan at the moment to keep that alive. And Gyroflow Toolbox, because it's based on an open source program called Gyroflow, who's created by a guy called Adrian, who's a genius. That'll just keep, tracking along because, Adrian and myself keep updating Gyroflow and keep enhancing it, so that's sort of going ahead. If we look, this was a screenshot from today, so out of all of the apps I've got, there's nearly 9,000 sales, which is pretty crazy. And you can sort of see in the graph, when I first did Brawl Toolbox, it had a huge amount of people, and that's why I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to be rich. If everyone buys this every single day, it's going to be amazing. And then it sort of petered out. And then this year, it's gone back up again because I've put in that paywall, essentially, for Command Post. And now people are just buying random apps that, they know I might have had like 2 sales on some really niche, crazy app, but because it's only $10, people are using that just to get access to Command Post. So you can see here are all the apps in the bundle. So there's 18 products on the Mac App Store. Brawl is by far the most popular, then Gyroflow. And then Scriptstar's a relatively recent one, and I'll talk more about that later. But you can see, over the last however many years, whatever I said, I've pushed out a lot of apps, and it's changed and evolved, which I'll get into in a second. All my icons I pay for. A guy called Matthew in New Zealand, he does the design for all of them. I hate all the Gen AI icon stuff, and it makes me sad. So one of the main reasons I build apps is so that I can pay Matthew to do pretty things. And some of these things, like the one in the top right corner with the green timecode slate, I haven't even built the app for that yet, but I've got the icon, and I've paid Matthew already. One day I will get to that. And the Lego one, I still haven't finished that. I'm trying to reverse engineer an old Lego Cybermasters kit. It's going to be the most profitable app I ever make, an audience of 3. But I love the process of, I don't even I basically just say, Matthew, run with it. Here's what the app does. Go forth and make something great. And he never disappoints me. Like the one with the colourful thing in the middle bottom is a VFX toolbox. And I think that's the coolest icon because it's sort of very film nerd VFX sort of heavy. But all the icons he does are just amazing. And then I got him to make, you can't see because it's hidden by my head, but I even got him to make like a work in progress icon for all the apps that I haven't quite finished yet. So we can use that for test flight and stuff before I pay him to make a proper app. And I can't remember when I did this. I might have had it, I think I had it in the last talk I did. At some point, there was a website called fcp.co, which was like the Final Cut Pro community website, essentially. And the person who ran it, I think, just got a bit burnt out from Apple not doing very many updates, couldn't get any sponsors. It became more of a job than a fun project, so he killed the website. And that was sort of the only website for Final Cut Pro users to get news. So I said, screw it, I'll do it myself. So I registered fcp.cafe, and these stats are from the last 30 days, so it still gets, quite a bit of traffic. But it's basically just, originally I sort of made it, it's all using GitHub and Cloudflare, so I don't pay for anything. But originally I was hoping that it would be a community-driven website, and people would go and do it. And it sort of started off, I got a whole bunch of editors who had never used GitHub to sign up to GitHub and do pull requests and taught them how to do all that kind of stuff. But in the end, it sort of has just become my blog and where I put stuff. And it sort of also has screwed me a little in that because I'm so open with all the stuff. Like if I find something new, I'll just share it on the website. And if I am doing something, I'll share all the geeky, nerdy details. But now a lot of the traffic is from LLMs because it trains all the people how to do things. So now they're my competition because I'm training all my competition. But it's cool having a website that I can also use to market all my own products. So now I sort of control the distribution and the products as well, which is sort of a happy accident, but it's quite cool. And I'd sort of have to be very careful because obviously, especially now with LLMs, there's so many people are coming out with competitors for my apps every single day, sometimes several times a day. So I need to be very careful to be unbiased, but also still promote my apps at the same time. So it's a tricky balancing act with the ethics of running a media site when you also make products that you're promoting as well on the media site. A couple of years ago, I also started collaborating with a Swedish team that had made basically an AI search called Jumper. And originally at the time, I can't remember the time frame, it was a couple of years ago. I think it was around the time I was pretty burnt out. So like when they originally contacted me, I was like, not interested, too busy, too tired. Here's some links of how to, because they basically built it for Adobe Premiere and they wanted to work in Final Cut Pro. I told them how to do it, said goodbye, and they were sort of insistent, they kept coming back, and eventually I sort of jumped on board and helped them with the Final Cut stuff. And then having spent so much time doing that, then I helped them with their Avid integration, that sort of thing. So it's basically like machine learning search, facial, visual, and speech for video editors. So it works in Final Cut Pro, it works in DaVinci Resolve, Avid Media Composer, and Final Cut Pro. So that's sort of one, like I basically get a commission for the sales, I guess. So I'm not like, I don't have any ownership in their Swedish company, and I don't have a Jumper email or anything. I'm basically just a third-party consultant, I guess, but they come from like an engineering background in telecommunications, so they're not filmmakers, they're not video editors, they don't understand none of that. They're really good engineers and product designers and UI designers, but they have no idea about the filmmaking process, so I sort of bring that to it. So that's been a really interesting collaboration. And yeah, it's been interesting seeing how hard it is to, like I think they originally thought it would go a lot more gangbusters from the get-go, just because at the time Adobe hadn't come out with their media intelligence sort of thing, and a lot of, like, this was sort of cutting edge at the time that it got released. But I think it also came at a time where a lot of video editors were terrified of anything to do with AI or machine learning because it was going to take their jobs. So you sort of had that going, and also, like, I think at the time there were the Hollywood strikes and then the fires in LA and that sort of thing. So it's been interesting sort of navigating all that, but like, I think like there's millions of people all around the world testing this in big facilities, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a hard sell because of the AI machine learning pushback from video editors, because no one wants to give away any work, especially in this current climate. And because a lot of people in Hollywood edit in Avid Media Composer on really old machines, and this works across Mac and Windows, and it can technically run on Linux. So getting something that works across 4 NLEs, 2 operating systems, it all has to work together, has to work with every version that Avid supports. So that's like, I think they support 2 years back with a billion different point versions. So it's like the complexity of keeping this machine alive is pretty crazy. It's basically, the engine is run like in a Python sort of thing, which I don't have anything to do with. So it's like got a Python engine that does all the machine learning stuff. It's got, on Mac, it's got a Swift like installer app, I guess, that sort of launches everything, gets everything in. And then every NLE has a different thing. So in Final Cut Pro, you have what's called a workflow extension, which is an Apple framework. In DaVinci Resolve and Premiere and Avid, you have like a web-based interface. So essentially a web view that you can control. So it's all like JavaScript. So the whole front end's all, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Svelte? So yeah, it's a Svelte front end with a Python back end with some Swift thrown in to pull it all together. I also started collaborating, again, I can't remember if I talked about this last year, but with a company called Hedge, who are based in Amsterdam, and they acquired an app called Final Cut Pro Library Manager, and they didn't have anyone to manage that, so they asked me if I could manage that product, which they renamed to Arctic. And this was cool. At the time I was like, I don't want to do this, but they were like, come on, Chris, it'll be really exciting, it'll be good, you think. So I reluctantly agreed, and mainly because Hedge is just such a great company, and I love the people and the company. I've met them a few times at various trade events in LA and stuff. No, in Las Vegas at NAB, which is a big broadcast convention sort of thing. So I love the people, but the products, it's all Objective-C. It's like a 10-year-old app that hadn't been updated for maybe 9 years. So to take that on and maintain it was quite scary, because it has a lot of, it's a complicated UI. Like looking at that, even I couldn't explain to you what all the buttons do. But that's been really interesting, sort of seeing how, like they've got, I don't know how many products they've got, maybe like 10 very high-end, really professional products. So being thrown into that world where you've got like, I had to get onboarded with all their security systems, and they were using GitLab at the time, so I had to learn GitLab, which I'd never dealt with, and all their sort of stuff like that. It was really interesting being thrown into a world of being treated as an actual developer, because I was just a filmmaker doing stuff on my MacBook Pro for fun. So that was a really interesting process, and I'm still sort of helping out, but yeah, it's tricky. Just I'm juggling too many things. I don't have enough time to help with all these different things, but yeah, this is something I'm still sort of responsible for and still try to keep updated. And then what's changed really in the last year is that LLMs like Claude and Codex, like last year, let's say, middle of last year, people would send me feature requests like, Chris, I love your app, but you really need to do this. Jump forward to today, people don't send me feature requests, they send me GitHub things and go, Chris, I built this app, I'm not a programmer, I've got it, it's 99% there, and I really want to use it, but it doesn't quite work, can you help me fix it? And a lot of it's, like I've got a great example. So one of these projects, I can't remember which one it was, they've been vibe coding it, they've never opened up Xcode. They built this app and it was insanely complicated, amazing. I was like, I couldn't build this with an LLM, how have you done? Anyway, but I went to open the Xcode project and it just didn't open. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like they've sent me a binary, it works, what's going on? And they're like, oh, I've never opened Xcode, I have no idea. You'll have to work that out. Oh, that's weird. So show package contents, look inside, and there is a whole lot of stuff that I had no idea what it was. I was like, what is all this stuff? They're like, I don't know. I'm not a programmer. Like Claude made all this. I have no idea what it is. And what Claude had done, it had got sick of losing context. So it had built its own internal Git system inside the Xcode project and had been writing reminders to itself and tracking all the stuff without the user's knowledge, or maybe it told them, but they had no idea. Okay, whatever, Claude, you go forth and do whatever you need to do. So it was like, I don't know, 4 gigabytes of just mostly unreadable gibberish that the LLM had put in there to track all its changes, so that when they jump between Claude and Codex and stuff, that it had a track, and it written its own README of how it interprets all this stuff, and it was realizing that it run out of memory, so it was compressing it down and written its own LLM compression scheme thing. I was like, what? It's basically the machine has taken over and it's built this whole ecosystem in this Xcode thing. So once I deleted all that stuff, the Xcode project opened and it worked. But yeah, this is the crazy world we're now in, and this is one of those collaborations where Ian Anderson, who is a longtime friend who's based in Queensland, who is quite technical, he's built like watch apps and stuff before LLMs, but he like really cares about product and design, and he had this idea and he said it was impossible to do, and I was like, well, no, it's not impossible, you just need to do this. And so we started collaborating on stuff, and like one of the reasons I got so depressed last year or the year before was that I'm a nerd that loves tinkering. Like I love the process of, like I literally like a couple of weeks ago, like I went back to Command Post and was just trying to get some obscure like button thing to work on my computer. Like it's a button that was like $10 at an op shop that probably no one has, but I was like, this will be cool, I can make it do stuff. And I fire up BB Edit, because that's what I use to code Lua, and I do it by hand without LLMs. And I love that. I love the problem solving and working with real hardware with stuff and that sort of thing. And when LLMs happened, it's sort of like my worst nightmare, because it's like, if we look at my film business, like my business partner handles he's the face of the business. He does all the talking, he does all the people stuff, he deals with actors. I just sit on my computer and do nerd things. Like I don't want to talk to a chatbot all day. Like it's like my worst nightmare of just continuously having to chat and to like second guess and to do all this sort of stuff. So when all this LLM stuff thing, I was like, oh crap, like now we're in a world where I don't open Xcode anymore, I just chat to a chatbot, and this is terrible and I hate it. But now it's sort of come full circle, and I've realized that I don't have to do that. All these people want to build great products. I can get them to spend hours, and they get obsessed. They're like me 10 years ago when I discovered programming. They're not sleeping. Like their wives are getting really angry because they're just coding all night and just going, oh, the LLM wrecked everything, got to start again and do it all again. And they don't understand any of the stuff that I've learned over the last decade of, I don't know, regularly submitting stuff to GitHub so that you can keep track of what's happening. They're just getting Claude to do a billion things in the one context window, and it's all crazy. But they're quite happy. They love that process because they're all storytellers, I guess, or product people that just love the design thing and care if a button is 1 pixel to the wrong spot or that sort of thing. Whereas I just want to ship something. I don't even care if it really works. As long as it has a cool human-made icon in it, I can put it on the App Store and App Review gets it through. So this is one of those collaborations where we Ian came out with the idea and how it works and that sort of thing. And I would sort of be like the mediator between him and the chatbot, because he would come to me and say, well, Claude said this is impossible, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'd say, well, that's not right, you can do this. And I have all this weird knowledge in my head of all these weird frameworks and things. I can say, well, actually in FX Plug, there is a function that does this. He's like, oh, how do you know that? And then he'd go and think, oh, Claude says you're right. So this is sort of the new world where I can sort of work with other people that like chatting to chatbots, and then I can jump in and go, all right, the ChatGPT says you can't do this, but if we go into Xcode and look at the actual code, it's quite obvious that you just need to move this decimal place to here and it will all start magically working. So that's what I've been doing with ScriptStar. And then we came up with another app. We were just, after we'd done ScriptStar, we were chatting. I was like, well, what's the one thing you'd want to do if you could do anything? He's like, oh, I want to do proper keyframes in Final Cut Pro, like advanced keyframes, but it's impossible, you can't do it. I was like, well, that doesn't seem impossible, you can do. And it took him a little bit of while to convince him that it was possible, and I think within an hour he had a working prototype, and it was just like, oh, and then he just spent days, weeks building, and this is like, couldn't even tell you what it all does, but it's like the most insanely complete keyframing system for Final Cut Pro where you can do all kinds of weird and wonderful things, and he cares about every single detail. So like every right-click contextual menu, he's really thought about it, and all the stuff that I don't care about, he's really thought about and built it in a way that's really nice and makes sense and is really complex, but works out of the box and normal editors can use it. And the way that we sort of do it, so if we look at this keyframe toolbox, if we look at the repo, and everyone deals with large language models differently. The way that I've been doing it is I basically have every project I've got an LLM references folder, which has like some example stuff. It's got like the full FX Plug framework. It's got examples. It's got one of my entire apps in there. It's got like Apple documentation, that sort of thing. And then I have an LLM prompt, which is like a massive, really long document where I will say what all these things are, where they are, that sort of thing. And I sort of have found that by not using like MCP stuff and skills and all that kind of stuff, I found it a lot better to have like one sort of like Bible. So I have like one master prompt, and then somewhere at the end of this I've got, and your task today is, and then I write what I actually want it to do. And I found that this works so much better because with like MCPs, you waste so many tokens just in the setup. Like I was looking at how many tokens it was using just to have things installed, even if you're not using them. Like, it's using thousands of tokens, which is basically like the LLM memory, just to set this thing up. So I've decided that, nope, I turn off all the history, I turn off all the personalization. So the only thing the LLM's getting is this, and at the bottom of this is what I actually want it to do. And I found that this is the best way for me to work because it goes less off task, and it's really sort of, because there's lots of things, and I've copied and pasted stuff from all kinds of places all over the internet. But I found that this gives a really good framework, and it doesn't get too confused about how everything is. I think that's pretty much the gist of it. But yeah, there's been other apps. So there's other guys in Germany, Knut and Sam, who are like, they do like big Netflix films as editors. And it's the same thing. They they've got all these problems that are so niche because they're working on high-end Netflix shows with Final Cut Pro, which is very unusual. So they've got all these niche sort of things that they can build, and they can get it like 90% there, but it's that little bit extra that they need help with, and that's where I come in and sort of help get it sort of there. So VFX Toolbox, which is the one with the cool, weird 2 globe things on a colour board thing, that's one that Sam built for like, I think it's had like, let's go back. Yeah, it's sort of like 8 copies. So it's not setting the world on fire, but there's 8 people that obviously need this super, super niche workflow. And it does it, and it does it pretty well. And News Import's another great example. This was one that, I can't even remember what country it was from, but I was doing a talk at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit last year in Cupertino, and I was saying, oh yeah, I made this News Import. I don't even know what it does. It's like some obscure German metadata. Like the news station in Germany has a very specific way they do metadata. And someone asked if you could build an app, and I was like, well, if you pay me $100 and you let me put it on the App Store, I'll do this. Because I had all the bits. I've built so many apps, and I have all the foundations to build everything. I can just duplicate something I've already made, change the icon, that sort of thing. And it's literally only sold one thing. And when I was telling this thing, a guy in the audience put his hand up and goes, hello, Chris. I'm that one person. It's amazing. I was like, oh, that's the guy. But now it's sold like 7 more copies. And I think that's only because they're probably either German news broadcasters, or they just bought it because they needed to use my used to be free command post software. But one of the things, so MetaBurner, which is another app I built, that was before the world of LLMs. And this is probably one of the things that completely broke me, because MetaBurner basically allows you to burn metadata into Final Cut Pro. It's a very niche tool. You only really need it in Hollywood workflows. But to do it, you need to, Final Cut Pro has an export format called Final Cut Pro XML, and it's just really complex. And so the guy that I build Command Post with, who's an amazing coder filmmaker based in Brisbane. He's sadly quit film and TV and now works for the police force as a coder. But at the time, he was helping me with Command Post. So I think I said this in my first talk, like when I first did Command Post, he sort of Facebooked me and says, hey Chris, this is amazing, what you've done is awesome, this is so cool. Here are 100 things you should do better. And he taught me GitHub, and he taught me like, originally Command Post was one Lua file, which was like 1 million lines of code. He's like, maybe we'll split it up into multiple files. So David's amazing, and I basically paid him to build a framework for manipulating Final Cut Pro XML that I could use for MetaBurner. And this was like the first time I realized, like once you start paying people, how expensive things can get. Because I was just going to pay him like an hourly rate, and we were just going to keep going until it worked. And he was working his butt off, and he's very clever, and I have complete trust in him. But the problem was so complex that, and this was before LLMs as well, like I spent so much money building this framework, and it worked, and we got it into MetaBurner, but MetaBurner sold 32 copies on the App Store. Originally, I released it on another platform called FX Factory, so it's on FX Factory and the Mac App Store. But yeah, it hasn't done that well. I was sort of depressed because I spent like a lot of money on this framework for doing Final Cut Pro XML, but jump forward, now it's used in so many different apps. And this framework, LLM's just really, for whatever reason, I think it's because Apple has terrible documentation and it's sort of really complex. Like LLMs don't really understand Final Cut Pro XML. So this framework's really good because you can plonk this in. I can give this to Ian and Knut in Germany and go, well, here's the framework to do the Final Cut Pro XML. The LLM will work out how to use it because it just can read it all and use it. But I can also use it as a ground truth going, well, if the LLM says that this is doing it wrong, we're just going to assume that the humans are right and this is right. And you just tell the LLM to go in other things. So a lot of time it'll say, this is wrong, you need to fix all these things. And we're like, wait, is it actually wrong? And I don't think we've ever had a case where the LLMs have beat the humans so far with that framework. So now I've got all these tools that I can sort of put together, and people can come to me with problems, and I can just see my brain go, all right, I've already solved that problem in Brawl Toolbox and Transfer Toolbox, so I can combine that. And even one of the apps, Atom Toolbox, else? I don't know. Oh yeah, Atom Exporter. Just had 33 things. That was something I was doing, doing like the data wrangling, sort of like the post-production supervisor, I guess, for Triple J Unplugged in Perth last year. And ABC's editors were doing all the edits. I was just sort of there to make sure it all sort of worked and all the technical stuff all sort of flowed right. And as we were doing the show, I was like, oh, it'd be so much easier if we just like hooked into the vision switcher and took every time the director pressed the button to change camera angles, we just stored that metadata and could bring it straight into the editor. So as the show was going, I was vibe coding that app. A little bit risky because I was literally connected to like the live mixer and I could have broken everything, but luckily it didn't break. But this is a great example because I don't own an Atom Vision mixer, and you can buy cheap ones, but they're still thousands of dollars. So I released this, and like lots of people loved it, and it was great, or lots of people, 33 people. But because I can't test it, I can't easily, like there's a bug, I don't have a TV studio that I can go and check and make sure it works. So I can't even remember what country it's from, but someone messaged me and goes, oh, I'm using this every day, but it has these issues. Can I just have access to the code? And I don't really care because I don't even know I don't have this thing anyway. And it's only sold 33 copies anyway. So I give him access to the code. I don't think he's a coder. He vibe codes it. Claude and Codex fix all the bugs. He sends it back to me. I push it an update to test flight, make sure that those 33 people, it doesn't blow up any TV stations. So yeah, I can sort of outsource that work as well. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is, since the last time I came here, the world has changed a lot. And in some ways it's better, in some ways it's worse. But it's definitely like, had I come like this time last year, I'd be so much more depressed because I was just like doom and gloom. Like, what is my skill set? If you can anyone can code anything. Like, you could take any of these apps and go, Claude, just duplicate it and do a crappy LLM icon as well. But now I've sort of come to peace, I guess, a bit that I can bring some value because I know all this niche sort of knowledge that LLMs don't have easy access to, except on my website. And yeah, I can work with people that just really care about product and design and UI, which I just don't care if it's a drop down or a checkbox. As long as it works, that's all I care about. So yeah, it's really great working and collaborating with all these people. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, otherwise I think I'm done.
I don't think you can say you're pretending to be a coder anymore, Chris, since you're now the subject matter expert. You're helping.
Very niche.
That's the same thing. Yeah. Like you're the one who knows the frameworks, and you're helping people get through that. Yeah. That's what a coder does.
Questions?
Thanks, mate. It's been a really good talk there. It's been 3 years since your last talk here. What do you think the world's going to be like in 3 years in terms of coding, and kind of how do you think LLM is going to change kind of the development landscape?
Yeah, well, I think the big thing is that like I just can't see a world where like the Anthropics and the OpenAIs can keep going the way they're going because they just use so much money and electricity. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And I think my prediction or like conspiracy theory or whatever I'm trying to say is that the reason Apple hasn't fixed Siri is because I think they're looking at all this stuff and going, well, LLMs are kind of like, we could just take Google's tech and just plonk it into an iPhone, but it's got so many flaws. Like the fact that it can just lie to you and make stuff up, and like in my example, it can build a whole ecosystem without the user knowing and doing all this nefarious stuff. I think Apple's probably looking at that, and maybe this isn't something that will come quickly, but I'm sure there's some smart people locked up in a dungeon in Cupertino that are working on the next version of an LLM, like whatever that is, because the current version of LLMs don't make sense, I don't think. Like it's sort of like, they'll come out with a better version of the human brain, how the human brain does it, and add some, whatever layer we've got in here that idiot checks all this stuff. So my prediction is that in 3 years' time, it will not be cloud, it will be on device. Like already these this is an old M1, but like the M5s or whatever have so many GPUs and neural engines and that sort of thing, and you can already run Gemma 4 or whatever it is locally. I think eventually there'll be a Siri chip that will do a lot of this stuff on device, and we won't have to have subscription because the subscription will go back to being the hardware. That's my guess.
Are you, like with LLMs and stuff, are you more reluctant to put out public stuff, like your own work publicly if people like LLMs are training? Like, has it changed your approach to openness?
No. I think I'm definitely aware that LLMs are like, yeah, I'm not a very good business person. I basically run a hobby business. The film and TV is not lucrative at all. And software's not that lucrative either. So I'm quite happy to share this all openly. And a great example is that a couple of days ago, a guy who I'd actually collaborated with years before came out with a piece of software called Splice Kit. It was originally called FCP Bridge, I think. And it's basically similar to my Command Post software where it sort of adds enhancements to Final Cut Pro. But the genius part is that he basically takes Final Cut Pro, sort of takes off the code signing and all the stuff, hacks a few things to make it still work without the code signing, uses like traditional code injection, like the way you would use the code inject stuff, and then re-signs it locally. So we basically built this wizard that allows you to sort of build a hacked version of Final Cut Pro, but because it's sort of got code injection, now the LLM can sort of, it's inside the application itself, so it can sort of ask it questions, and you can just set it off for a few days to like work out the whole entire internals of Final Cut Pro and what every menu item does and what every hidden debug preference is. And so now this software sort of has such deep knowledge of Final Cut Pro, it can sort of do anything. So now he's hooked up like LLMs to it. So you can ask, it uses Gemma, you can ask Gemma to like do stuff, and the LLM has full access to Final Cut Pro and it just works out how to do it. And I think that's sort of the eventual new world in that I don't think there's any point being me like not promoting things like that or not being interested in that kind of stuff, because that stuff's the cool, that's the fun stuff that I love, is like people like breaking things in ways that I never thought of. And I also think that eventually Apple will do this as well, where they'll just give us, in the same way like we've sort of got shortcuts and we've got app intents and that sort of thing and the accessibility framework, eventually like they're just going to open it up so that, I don't know, Automator or Shortcuts has full access to every app, and there's some sort of context so you can ask your Mac to do anything and it already knows everything. It sort of already does because of the accessibility API and all this stuff, but they'll package it into something nicer that you'll just be able to go, open Keynote, do whatever, blah, 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 and it will just do it because it knows everything about Keynote. That's my guess.
Questions?
Thanks for that, Chris. It was really interesting to go into all the work that you're doing over the past 2 years. I wasn't part of the community 2 years ago, so I missed out on the first couple of talks. But with the app development side that you're working towards, I know you're not trying to make a business out of it or monetize it much, but the apps that sell the most compared to the ones that don't, have you seen a remarkable kind of differentiation in product offering, or what's worked well for one that you can improve upon in the other one to make it as profitable?
Honestly, I care less about the money side and more the interest side, because this isn't really my full-time job. Ideally, in a perfect world, someone would pay me like 100 grand a year just to tinker with Command Post, and I would just spend all my days making random buttons work. But sadly, that doesn't happen. So none of these things, these are all like, Broad Toolbox started as me trying to solve a problem for my workflow. And the only reason I started selling it was because it actually worked, and I didn't think it would. And I knew that lots of other people had this issue. And that did really well because it was $80 US. So it generated a decent amount of money because it was expensive. And then the subsequent apps haven't earned as much. I think Gyrofly Toolbox maybe $9.99 US, that sort of thing. But there's definitely been apps like Marker Toolbox, which has sold 271. Like that's an app that I think is actually like probably the most useful for a wide range of Final Cut editors. I don't know how many Final Cut editors there are in the world, but I think they've sold like at least 10 million copies of it. So to only have sold 271 copies of this tool, which I think is really useful, it's really interesting, especially when I sort of have the website that most people go to for Final Cut News and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not sure what the magic sauce is to sell things. And the other thing I've realized is that like a lot of these apps, people will send me like, oh, look, it's on the top of the Mac App Store ratings, or it's on the top of the App Store chart in the App Store. And you're like, then you look back and you're like, yeah, because it sold like 3 copies, which means that like all these other apps have sold less than 3 copies. Like maybe there's just not much money in the Mac. Like, yeah, people just assume that if you're top ranking in the Mac App Store list that you're making lots of money, but I can tell you, you are not. And the other thing to realize, of course, is that the Australian App Store is different from the US App Store. So all the reviews and the ratings and stuff is different for every country. So it's like a minefield of working out what's actually popular or not. But yeah, having access to all the stats to see what I'm actually selling and comparing it to like what those top charts are, I just make the assumption that no one is making a lot of money off the Mac App Store. And again, I'm only on the Mac App, so I don't have any iPhone apps or iPad apps or Vision Pro apps yet.
You just mentioned that all of this is not your full-time job. So how much time does it consume to support like 20 apps in Max?
Yes, obviously I'm a psychopath and I spend a lot of time doing work. And yes, when I was on my Easter holiday, I still had to update my FCP Cafe website with news, and I had to like reply to emails and that sort of thing under the guise of Easter bunny eggs over the top. Oh, I'm definitely not on my phone. I definitely didn't bring my laptop camping. It does take a lot of time, but there's also, what I've realized is that there's not that much pressure. So for example, Brawl Toolbox, when I did version 2, which was a major rewrite, I've broken it. The current version has been broken on the Mac App Store since February, and I need to fix it. I know what's wrong. I just need the time to do it. But generally, like, people are really understanding. Like, people will email me and go, hey, Chris, doing this job. It's really urgent. It's not working. It was working yesterday. What's going on? And I can just send them a link to like the old version going, roll back to the old version. That'll fix it. I'll fix this eventually. And I've never had anyone swear at me or yell at me so far. So the pressure is a lot. I feel like I get more abuse, I got more abuse when Command Post was free than all these paid apps. Like the $80 app, I don't think I've ever had an angry person. It's just been like, oh, okay, that's all right, fix it when you can. Even though they've paid $80 to do it, which is probably a high expense in that app world. But yeah, I find that the free customers are the most demanding compared to the paid ones. Everyone's been very understanding. And it can be tricky. Like there's lots of times where I've broken something, pushed out a fix straight away, and then you're stuck in app review hell where they decide the icon or the screenshots are wrong. Like, but this is the 30th release. Why do you care about that now? So yeah, I feel like I do spend a lot of time on it, but I don't need to, like, it doesn't need to be all encompassing. Like there was periods where I didn't touch apps at all for like a month because I was burnt out or had trees falling on the house or that sort of thing. So I don't none of these apps make me stay up at night going, I need to fix this. So yeah, they're sort of lower priority because I make them lower priority, I guess.
Thank you. Very impressive for someone who's claimed that he's not a coder. So I would like to know the challenges that comes with managing multiple apps at the same time, especially when you claim you're not a developer, but we know the truth. And you said you're low priority. And I think my question is what the challenge? And I believe it's like investment. If you invest in a lot of business, some business may fail and some business may keep going. How do you make decision of, let's say, you want to continue maintaining this app and you want to shut down some others?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've never shut down an app so far. I'm not sure what will happen. Yeah, I mean, all these apps I'd like to keep updated and working. Like I said, Broad Toolbox is currently broken. I mean, it works, but it's got a major bug that makes it kind of unusable. So you can roll back, but that's the annoying thing about the Mac App Store is that you can't just let the user roll back to previous versions. Like, that's such a pain in the ass. And by me, like, emailing them private builds, I guess, also there's nothing stopping them from just releasing that for free on the internet and screwing over everything. So there's a sort of a level of trust and complexity with that. But yeah, there's definitely, looking at the list, there's definitely apps I know need bug fixes, or there's features that I've been promising to people for years that I haven't yet done. So every one I look at, I know there's stuff that I could work on it. But I also want to work on new stuff and push out new stuff. So it's working out that priority list, and I use GitHub for everything. So every one of these projects has a private repo with the code, and a public repo, which is the website and the GitHub issues. So I basically push all user support to GitHub so that there's like public accountability as well. So if there's something like with Broad Toolbox, it's not like I'm hiding it. It's like, oh, sorry, in this Git issue, here's all the angry people. And luckily none of them are angry, they're just reporting it in a nice way. And I think that sort of helps as well, because it builds a community. Everyone feels like they're part of it. There's accountability, because you can look at every one of these apps and go, all right, here are all the things that Chris says he'll do or fix, or here's all the known bugs. I think that helps. But yeah, it is a balancing act, because like I said, like my main priority is making sure that our film and TV business stays afloat, which is a challenge in itself. And we've got staff, and we've got an office, 2 offices. So that's sort of my main priority. And then the app stuff was originally a hobby, but around the same time that I released Broad Toolbox, the corporate advertising world died a horrible death because of the world. And software became an important revenue source, because Broad Toolbox was bringing in a decent amount of money. It sort of was perfect timing and completely unplanned that as corporate advertising work completely died, software sort of filled that, and we just went back to level, we just sort of sailed through that year. Now it's less, it's making some money again because of the Command Post stuff, but it's less of, my film company doesn't rely on this anymore. Corporate work, thankfully, has sort of come back, and our creative projects come back. So this is a really handy side project, but it's not our main priority. If I look at my calendar at the day of what I need to do, it'll always be family, late night, and then the app stuff underneath that. And that's, yeah. And yeah, I have no self-control, so there'll be a lot of times where I'll say I'm going to bed, and then I'll just check one thing, and then I look up and go, oh no, it's 4 a.m. I should really go to bed because I need to get up at 6 to take these kids to school that day, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know if did that answer your question? Awesome.
I'll walk over there, but do you do any subscription stuff, or have you considered that?
No, so Jumper has a subscription option, and I sort of fought that to try just make it perpetual, but it has perpetual lifetime license as well. Or you can buy it with 1 year of updates, I guess. So it's perpetual. You can keep using that version forever, but you only get 1 year of updates and support. But that's not none of these late night apps. They're all one-off purchases on the Mac App Store.
Thank you, Chris, for your inspirational presentation.
Thank you.
And you are doing this on the side, right? Not your main priority. And I wonder, do you have any strategy to distribute all the apps? It's like marketing and stuff, or how to do it?
Not really. When Broad Toolbox first came out, because it was doing well and that was my first app, I was like, I'm gonna pay some money to Twitter and Facebook and see if that works. And I realized it does not work. Twitter was basically you look at the stats, you're like, oh, every single one of those was a fake account. And then you look at the Facebook stats, you're like, all of these are fake accounts as well. And it didn't generate any extra income or like app sales, that sort of thing. So really the only place, I guess my strategy is community and the FCP Cafe website. And so at the top of the FCP Cafe website, there's like a sponsored thing which promotes all the apps. All of these apps link back to like a master website of all the apps I make. And it's really about being involved in the Final Cut and video editor world so that when people run into problems, they think of me personally and go, oh, Chris might have an app that solves this. And it's really about that sort of online networking. And like I said, I'm not really a people or, like I don't go to many events. I'm not going out like selling this. And I'm not a very good salesperson either. I sort of typical Australian that talks down myself and doesn't like, I'm not an American that will like go, this is the greatest thing ever. I was like, oh, these are kind of crap apps that have nice icons. I can talk really nice things about the icons. So yeah, my marketing strategy is literally just build community, be honest, be friendly and help people and hope that it all works out in the end. Yes.
We'll end on that, I think. Yeah, awesome, Chris. Thank you very much. I'm going to engrave that in my
No one nicer than you, Pat.
No. Thanks, buddy. Siblu? Thank you very much, Chris. One more round of applause. Okay, just another reminder about the events this month. A coding night next Wednesday. Bring the family and friends. Great. It's here at Mantle Group. That's, yeah. So that social night, last Tuesday of the month, April 28th. April 28th. Thank you again to our sponsors. Oh no, I'll hold it here. Thank you to our sponsors, Mantle Group and REA Group. Okay. Anyone else want to say anything? Last final words? Anything else? No. Good. All right, let's finish up. So we're going to go to a social thing up the road. I feel like I left something out. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Pat. Go CocoaHeads.